You know, much like the Premier, this throne speech spends most of its time looking at the past with no vision for the future. It speaks to the legacy, Madam Speaker, the Premier would like New Brunswickers to remember rather than the one people will actually remember. I think everyone's had enough. For example, the alienation of First Nations, dividing New Brunswickers over language and culture, dividing New Brunswickers over sexual orientation and gender identification, fear-mongering all the way along, whether it's on the Aboriginal title, claim, trying to instill fear in people that somehow they're going to lose their homes. It's crazy. The Madawaska First Nation had a big land title settlement that took in a lot of the city of Edmundston. No one lost their homes. No one lost their businesses. In fact, it was settled well, recognized, and with some of the revenue that compensation that was provided, Madawaska First Nation has developed new businesses that are employing not just Indigenous people, but people from across the Greater Edmundston region, creating local wealth in the community, creating local jobs. So it's just the opposite of what we're hearing. Think about his legacy around our healthcare system and treating our nurses and doctors respectfully. You know, going door to door, the last time we were able to do that during an election campaign, I could always pick out the nurses because I'd say, Madam Speaker, you know, what are your concerns? What are your priorities as we go into this election? And they would sort of stiffen and say, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. I said, no, I do want to know. Every one of those people were teachers when that happened. And they just would let launch with a list of concerns and difficulties and challenges they're facing which have not been addressed. With the latest insult being really the bonuses for retention were provided in PEI in Nova Scotia to nurses there and not to nurses in New Brunswick. How about the legacy of ignoring the desperate lack of care staff in a nursing home? You know, at public accounts a little while back, the Deputy Minister said for the first time they're finally putting in place a strategy for retention and recruitment of nursing home care workers. For the first time. How could it be possible that this didn't exist before? How about this for a legacy? Presiding over the greatest increase in homelessness in New Brunswick's history. We see it in our cities. We see it in our towns. St. Stephen. For the first time, people visibly homeless living outdoors. Didn't happen before. And certainly in our cities, it was never on this scale. Never on this scale. And because of the scale now, despite the efforts of nonprofits and community organizations and churches to try and provide permanent housing for people, there's growing numbers of people who just are difficult to house without specialized housing with wraparound services 24 hours a day so they can stay housed and receive this kind of supports that they desperately need to remain under a roof. We don't have that. And then, of course, who will forget, Madam Speaker, the Premier's denial of the need for urgent climate action? Another part of the legacy. So, at a State of the Province address last winter, the Premier asked if he should stay or go. Many have told him that he should go. In September, he announced no, he wasn't going anywhere. He was staying. This throne speech fails to tell New Brunswickers where he intends to go with the province. So if he's staying, he won't tell us what he's going to do, which is kind of the point of the throne speech. It's a utilization of this historic practice in the Legislative Assembly and all parliaments in our Westminster system to lay out your plan in a throne speech. Why did he even have one if he had no plan to lay out or didn't want to lay out his plan? What was the point of the throne speech? I ask myself, everyone else is asking themselves who's read it,